is. I know the yin yang. That's cool. Come to find out, that's basically the foundation of acupuncture and TCM. No, we're not separate from nature, and that's a big concept. That we come out of this world, not from it, right? So we are a part of the stars, the planets. We are part of the nature, the forest, the waters. It's the movement aspects, and that really ties into Tai Chi and Qigong. Basically, you're moving your own Qi or air energy to really bring your body back to homeostasis. And that's basically what acupuncturists do. They're using needles, they use moxibustion, cupping, gua sha techniques to really move Qi by eliminating stagnation or blocks in the body, or encouraging Qi. We can encourage the body to lift it up again. You're too much, you're very excessive, you're almost manic to the point. We'll talk about emotion. We can suppress it a bit, right? Calm it down, relax it. So that's the beauty and art of acupuncture, where we are essentially Qi manipulators. Yin and yang, going back to that Taoist symbol, the yin and yang symbol. So the idea is that's our health. And what yin and yang it really means is, they're polar opposites, like the sun and the moon. So if we take that, for example, the heat of the sun, the brightness of the sun is very yang in nature. And you have the moonlight, you have the nighttime, you have things that are very more toned down. It's more structurally based, and that's more yin. It's quiet. It's not bright, right? You could say light is yang and dark is yin. The physiological function of our organs and our body, that would be yang. The structural components, the hard things in our body that create substance in our body, is yin. So you need to have a firm or a healthy balance of both structure and function in our body, which is yin and yang.
Let's say you're in a forward fold position, which in yin and in yoga is considered something that helps to cool the body down. You can say that in a class to a student, but what does that actually mean?
So you want extensibility in your muscles. You want to be able to be flexible and have supple joints. So any of these movements are going to encourage a yin aspect, the structure. What tends to happen is if we get really tight and there's a lot of tension in our body, you have so much of these points that create stagnation and blocks of the Qi. When it gets so tight, it doesn't flow. And we have very little Qi flow going into certain organs or any part of the circulatory system. It's going to inhibit its growth. It's going to inhibit its health. So by doing these movements, by stretching and creating more extensibility in our soft tissues, the Qi is going to flow better and nourish those areas even more. So in a way, you can actually even argue that any kind of flexibility training that's going to improve your range of motion is going to improve your health dramatically, because now you have better circulation. You can even, if you have a Western mindset to it, if you just improve general blood circulation in your body, you're going to feel better, because blood brings in nutrients and vitamins and minerals and everything that's in it and get absorbed to the areas or the cells in that area, right? So all these movements that you stretch and you're nourishing, you're actually hydrating the tissue with all the fluids, really, right? You have the interstitial fluids, and you talk about the fascial components of the body, these fascial highways that allow these fluids to be nourished, and you have the synovial fluids in the joints. Again, it's the use it or lose it principle, right? The breath is very important as well, because you can actually focus a lot of your Qi in a certain area, almost supercharge that area, and then you get effects that could be otherworldly, almost supernatural.
Okay.
But again, that requires a lot of concentration and discipline.
So does Qi relate to emotion in any way?
Absolutely. In Chinese medicine, we learn different types of Qi. There's air Qi, there's food Qi, there's defensive Qi, which is our immune system. There's universal Qi that we pull up, and it's even, they say cosmic Qi, the microcosmic Qi. So there's so many, and they're all Chinese terms, but these are the translations. But if you really want to break it down, make it in simple terms, you just say, okay, Qi is ATP. Qi could be electrons, right? So it's like the free flow of electrons flowing through the earth. That's why, like, walking barefoot on the earth, you're just getting free electrons into your body. So basically, if you walk barefoot, you're getting acupuncture treatment for free. So on a deeper energetic level, yes, Qi is emotion as well. Heart, pericardium, which represent the fire element. And then you have the liver, gallbladder, wood element. The stomach and the spleen is the earth, right? Digestion, you're pulling the nutrients from the earth, the food. And then you have the metal element, which is lung and large intestine. A water element would be kidney and bladder, okay? So you have these 5 elements. Basically, the fire element or heart would be joy. Then you have grief, and that would be the metal element, the lungs, right? So I guess if you're weeping, you could think about your lungs are it's hard to inspire and expirate, right? So you're that's getting inhibited, and all your chi flow is pretty much stuck here. And so there's a directionality of chi, the chi mechanism. There is a standard form for the chi to flow in our body. So when we have emotions or excessive emotion, it's going to inhibit that chi flow. And that's why you feel differently when you have these extreme emotions. So when you're joy, the chi flow of joy is very out. It spreads out, right? So again, that would be really good if you're a very depressed person and everything was stagnated, and then you just start to feel more joyful. Of course you're going to feel better because now you're balancing yourself out. All that chi that's kind of estranged and stuck here, you just all of a sudden become happier. It opens up. We talk about sadness. Sadness and grief, there is a component of dispersal upwards. I guess you could see that as like crying and tearing, but also a dissension downwards as well. So you have this kind of effect, right? This umbrella effect. You have the water component, which is fear-based, and fear again astringes. You know, when you're fear, you kind of protect yourself. So your chi is coming in and towards the center of your body, protect your organs. So, but pensiveness is just worrying. You're just thinking so much. You're consuming all your chi, all your ATP, your energy by just producing all these thoughts. We call it mental fatigue or decision fatigue. So when you're, and that's a spleen, that's an earth component. So spleen and stomach. So when you're in excessive overthinking, it's going to pull from that element. And again, that's going to throw you off balance. So overthinking, yes, again, that's going to be something that you definitely want to manage. And the best way to do it is mindfulness and meditation. But you can understand if you could put a halt to that huge conveyor belt of just thoughts, it is consuming you. You get tired from that. And then you have anger. This is like the number one thing that destroys our physiology. Really? Anger, frustration. Yeah, so that's tied to the liver. And so you'll understand why that really affects us. So the liver and the gallbladder, that's the emotion of anger. And, you know, the good aspects of anger, it's a very motivating energy. It gives you, you know, when you will do something. Typically, unless you're frustrated and you have resentments, then you're just kind of festering, and that's poison because you're not using, you're producing a lot of energy, but you're not using it. But typically anger, that's what's happening right now in the world, right? So people are going out and taking action. And that's the healthy point of anger. It's like if something is out of balance for so long and you want to change it, it's going to give you that like kind of like that very convicted energy to do something about it. And that's like the healthy part of liver. And so another reason why the liver is so important, because when we're so chronically angry all the time, the liver loses its function of its governing role of free flow of chi. That's what the liver energy does. It's like the general of our body. It makes sure everything is in line. Imagine a liver that's overconsumed by anger and it can't function well. Then all the other meridians start to not function well because there's no traffic guard. They don't, all the traffic lights are thrown out of whack. So it handles all of the emotions. So we talk about joy, sadness, fear, fright, pensiveness. All that gets filtered through the liver. People are overly sensitive and they can't handle their emotions. It's so hard for them just to stay cool, right? And that's a dysfunctional liver. And ultimately we call that U syndrome. It's when now all your emotional energy gets turned back inside you, and now it starts to damage your organs. But that's later on. That's very chronic. Ultimately, all the emotions actually come from the heart, the spirit. Our spirit is basically our emotional body, the spiritual body. We call it the astral body. Like there's so many aspects to it, but that is who you actually are. So you can actually just address the heart itself, because that's where all the emotions come from. So the heart meridian, the superficial meridian, is just like basically on the armpit all the way into the inner side of the arm to the pinky here. The heart channel here, and then you have all this. So this is a lot of the heart points here. right in the center here is PC7 as well, and that's like a very, very effective. So the pericardium again is the fascial wrapping around the heart as well. So it's like we call it the protector, the heart protector. That's actually one of its names. So the pericardium channel is also in the center as well.
Right.
So actually hitting these 2 points, it's basically the inside of the arm,
Right.
this whole covering. So you can, yeah, you can massage these areas if you want to. So we'll hit the pericardium channel mostly. PC6 is like the point for like emotional health, right? So if you have any anxiety, worry, even like to the point that it's giving you heart palpitations, this is a great point. So basically like 2 thumbs down is going to be PC6, like right in the center.
I wanted to talk a little bit specifically also about anxiety. It's something that
Mm.
I know a lot of students come to yoga for. And I don't know personally how that sits into the whole TCM machine. But what do you think people can do about that, and where does it stem from?
If you want to think about the channel itself, the external channel on the arms, you could do a lot of, I would say like you could do fascial unwinding techniques to really start to mobilize the arms, the chest. You want to, because the thing about the anxiety too, it's almost like you feel like it's like your chest is kind of caving in. It's like so contracted that it's now your heart doesn't have really not much room to function well. And then you get these palpitations, feel like you're suffocating in your chest. So notice that you want to start to relax the chest muscles, the pecs, the serratus anterior, open up, get thoracic extension so the chi can start to flow better evenly through your upper extremities. You want free flow of chi here. You notice people with anxiety too. It's like everywhere you palpate, because I'm a massage therapist as well. It's like, oh, that hurts tremendously. Oh, pec minor. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, subscapularis. Ah, that's crazy. Bicep is super tight. It's just like all these muscles that are structurally tight is going to affect the function of the heart and eventually affect the actual chi flow and the emotional flow of the heart. And that's expressed as anxiety. So if you can actually start to change the structure from this, you're getting, so the kidneys have so much energy. That's where we get our life force. So if you're already kind of doing that, you're already inhibiting your own life force energy. You're stagnating it just based off of your posture. So
Mm.
I'm a huge proponent on structure actually determines your function. I'm more about that. Honestly, so it's a simple trick of like if you start to smile more, you use the muscles of that smile, you actually become happier. Like you're just a little bit happier. If you can actually meditate on that, meditate with a smile for about 30 minutes. You're like, life isn't too bad. Like it's like your outlook changes just a bit. It's just tiny, but that's a great way to kind of say, you know what? You start to appreciate things more just because you changed your structure,
Mm.
the function of your muscles. And that's a fascinating thing. So imagine you get someone like this, and now they're starting to sit up every day now like this more comfortably. Now it's subconscious. They don't have to think about it. I think their attitude is going to change. I think their anxiety is going to be lessened because of that. And there's also another component of ungroundedness, right? So they're not anchored to anything. So all their energy is just up here. Like there's no grounding. So you can even get to the point, this is the personal trainer in me, it's like strengthen up your legs, like firm roots. In Chinese medicine or even Kung Fu, they're all about the horse stance. Like hold the horse stance for like an hour until your legs are about to shake. The horse stance is like you're holding a really deep and wide squat as if you're riding on a horse. So
Okay.
you're kind of straddling something wide. So your knees are out, boom, and then the feet are down here. If you want to really go expert level, like meditate on that. Just hold that pose like this, with your hands out, so all the chi circulates like here, and then your legs, everything's flowing through. Just make sure your posture is really straight. You have a straight spine. So the reason why we want alignment in our body is because you don't want any kinks in the chain, right? You have to understand that there's a lot of fluids, a lot of energy flowing in our body. So if you equate that to us being like a water hose, if you have a kink in the water hose, you're not going to be able to water your plants. There's inhibition there. So that's the same thing happens in our body. You want to unwind those areas that are stuck. So now you will feel it too. I don't know, I'm pretty sensitive, but if you put yourself in a terrible posture for like 3 minutes, and then you go back to your regular structurally sound posture, you actually start to like, wow, I could breathe much deeper. My thoughts are clearer actually now. I can actually think more clearly and concentrate better.
Mm.
You'll start to notice those subtleties if you put yourself in proper alignment. In a treatment, people start crying and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying, or they'll start laughing like crazy, or you get bouts of anger and they're like, I'm so sorry, I don't know where that came from. But as a practitioner, you know exactly where it came from because you have all this energy just stuck in this area. It's not like it just disappears when you unblock it. It's going to flow out.
Mm.
So you'll get those aspects. So that may happen if you're so stuck and you're doing yoga, you're doing these stretches, you start to feel good, you might get a little like high a little bit. You'll get a little, ooh, like you start to get a little loose. So just make sure you sit down a bit. You don't want to pass out. But that's a good sign ultimately because now you're moving things.